Hi, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Noah Cameras here alongside Ariel Putterman, and welcome to this week's episode of dTSPN. So this past week we had the NFL draft, a very exciting time for a bunch of young talent that are going to be coming into the league. And the first two picks, they were not a surprise. One was Jared Goff to the LA Rams, two was Carson Wentz to the Philadelphia Eagles. So now the two quarterbacks, between them, who do you think is going to be the better one?
I think that Jared Goff will be the better quarterback. I think the Rams are a perfect fit for him. I think they did a good job trading up and drafting him. He's got a lot of talent. He's got good size. He's got good arm strength. I think he's going to be a really good player. I think Wentz will be a good player as well, but I just see Goff being the better player.
So now Laremy Tunsil, who at one point was a projected number one pick in the draft, a picture came out, his Instagram was hacked, and a picture came out of him in a gas mask smoking a bong, and this definitely scared some GMs, so he fell. He fell even more. The Ravens said they were going to take him at 6 before they saw the video. He fell all the way down to 13. The Dolphins picked him up. Now, he's a really good player. He was definitely a steal, besides the fact that he may have this problem. Now, do you think this was a smart pick, or maybe people should have waited a little longer?
I think it was a smart pick, because if you look at the Dolphins last year, they had no protection. And I think Laremy Tunsil is the best offensive lineman in the draft. Even though he's the third one taken, I still think he's the best offensive lineman in the draft.
Yeah, and teams were obviously scared because you saw the Titans. They traded up to 8 from 15 to draft an offensive lineman, and they didn't even take Tunsil. They took Jack Conklin. So obviously teams were scared. Hopefully he can stay healthy because he'll be a fantastic player in this league. Now, moving on to other players that fell, Myles Jack and Jalen Smith. They were both projected top 5, at least top 10 picks in the draft. They both had bad knee injuries in college, and this led to them falling. Myles Jack went 36 to the Jaguars. Jalen Smith went 34 to the Cowboys. Now, do you think this was a good place for these players to go? Maybe they should have fallen more. Maybe they should have been drafted higher. What do you think?
I think that the Myles Jack pick was a steal. A lot of people had him going 4th to the Cowboys, and he slid all the way down. But I think that was a great pick for the Jaguars. They really upped their defense in the free agency. They have Fowler now from last year, Amakamura, Poslanski. So I think that was a great pick. And then for Jalen Smith, I think he could have gone a little bit later to the Cowboys. They could have traded up for a late second-round pick. But I do like Jalen Smith on the Cowboys. I think he's a really great defensive player.
So now, overall, who do you think had the best draft?
The best draft, I'd say the Jaguars for that reason that I just said. Ramsey, who they took with the 5th pick, unbelievable defensive player, possibly the best player in the draft. And then they took Jack in the 2nd round, another great defensive player.
Yeah, the Jaguars may have arguably ended up with the 1 and 2 best talents in the draft,
For sure.
which is amazing. And like you said earlier, they're definitely focused on defense. They got Amakamura, they have Poslanski, they also went out, they spent a lot of money on Malik Jackson. They're wanting to win now, and their defense is what it revolves around. You saw the Broncos won it last year with the defense. So now on the other end, who do you think had the worst draft?
Definitely the Eagles. They just signed Chase Daniel and Sam Bradford to big quarterback deals over the offseason, not even a long time ago, over this offseason. And then they go and draft a quarterback. It makes no sense. I don't know why they did it. And then the rest of the draft, they had no one who really stood out. Yeah. So I don't think that was a great draft by them at all.
So now shifting over to the NBA, the playoffs are upon us. The first round, not much happened. Most of the teams we expected did win. But in the second round, we've already had, actually in the first round we had 2 of them. Now we've had another one. The refs have made a lot of mistakes, and these are not little mistakes in the middle of the game. These are game-changing mistakes. So what do you think about this?
Well, we saw the first one, game 1. Harden pushed one of the Warriors players, and that costed them the game. And that gave them
the win when it was really an offensive foul.
And then in game 7, Ian Mahimi got pushed by Bismarck Biyombo in the closing seconds, which was the difference between moving on to the next round and staying and going home. So that's a huge one. And then finally, the big one that everyone's talking about right now, the Spurs and Thunder. There was at least 5 fouls called on that last play, but none of them were called. And I think that's crazy.
It's hard for the refs to call something out of the 5, but you can't not call anything.
Yeah, of course.
If you have 5 different occurrences happen, one of them has to be called. I mean, at first you saw the Dion Waiters push. Then you saw Manu Ginobili maybe flop. Maybe he went over, got him. There's also maybe a 5-second violation. And then back after the play had developed.
Jump pass on the inbound.
The jump pass on the inbound. And then when the play had developed, there were probably at least 2 fouls down in the paint. I mean, there was something, and they just missed all of them. Now moving on, Stephen Curry, you saw he got injured in the first round, came back, got injured again, and he's going to be out until at least game 3 or 4. But do not worry, Golden State fans. You guys are doing fine. You are up 2-0 in the series, so do not worry. Steph Curry will be back soon for you guys. Now also, another huge series right now, Spurs Thunder. So game 1 was a huge blowout, 32-point victories for the Spurs. The game 2, we were just talking about the crazy 5 seconds, last 10 seconds, which could have gone either way, the 5 fouls. So Spurs Thunder, who do you have in that series?
I had the Spurs winning in 6 games. I think that they're a really good team. They blew them out first game. They barely lost, even though they probably should have won that second game. So I think that the Spurs had the series.
I have Thunder in 6 because we saw they play in the game 2. Even if they would have lost that game, if they play like that the rest of the series, I see them taking it. I see Westbrook and Durant just clicking, and I think they'll be able to take over and win the series in 6. Another series to talk about, Raptors Heat. So game 1 was just a few days ago, and Kyle Lowry, they were down. Raptors could have lost this game at least 4 different times. They ended up coming back every time, and then with 3 seconds left, Kyle Lowry gets the ball, and here's how it sounded.
They need a 3 to tie. Lowry, half-court heave, a prayer at the buzzer. Oh! Kyle Lowry! He hits! Overtime in Toronto!
So Kyle Lowry from half court, this game he shot terribly. He was 3 for 13, but of course he made that one of all of them. The one that counted. It brings you back to March Madness, just the feel of this. And the Raptors fans went crazy, but then in overtime, the Heat start off on an 8-0 run. Dwayne Wade is as clutch as ever. He forces a turnover on the last possession when they were only up 3, and the Heat take game 1. They have the series 1-0. Who do you think's going to win this series?
I think the Heat will win just because they have more depth, they have more experience, and I think that the Raptors will give them a tough time. I think it could go 6 or 7, but I think the Heat will pull it out in the end.
Yeah, like you said, I think experience is the biggest thing for the Heat. They've been there before. Dwayne Wade has really done it every single time he's brought his team. I think they'll take it. So now, in other NBA news, the Lakers, they've been in a lot of headlines lately. They went out, they signed Luke Walton as their head coach, 5 years, $25 million. This is huge for the Lakers. He used to play with the Lakers. He was the assistant of the Warriors. He led them to a great record before Steve Kerr came back. What do you think about Luke?
I think it's a good signing. I think that he's a great coach. You saw what he did with the Warriors. And I think that he'll really develop the young players, and he'll do a really good job.
Yeah, Meta World Peace said that in their games, when Luke Walton was still on the team, after every time out, he would go over to Luke. He would talk to Luke. He would just hear some insight about Luke. So I think it's a great move. And also, keeping it with the Lakers, they have come out multiple times and said that if they do keep this top 3 protected pick, which is from the Steve Nash trade, if it's not top 3, they lose it. If they keep that pick, they will trade it for a proven star such as a Paul George or DeMarcus Cousins. Maybe a Jimmy Butler. What do you think about that for the Lakers?
I think that's good for Lakers because they want to win now. When you live in Los Angeles, when you play in Los Angeles, the fans expect you to win right away. They don't want to rebuild. So I think that when they get that superstar plus the young talent, it's going to be attractive for other free agents, and it'll help them win now.
Yeah, I think the Lakers, if they can make this trade, it would obviously be before the draft, before free agency even gets going. And if they got another star on their team that would look good next to Russell, next to Randall, Nance Jr., Clarkson. If they got a star there, maybe put in Paul George, this would attract other free agents. Because if you get to free agency with nothing, the Lakers might end up how they have the past few years with getting no one. But if you already have at least another star there, that can just bring in more. Maybe a Durant, maybe a DeRozan, maybe Whiteside, anyone. So now quickly, we're going to give a quick shout out to Leicester City, who they had 5,000 to 1 odds to win the Premier League in soccer, and they came out, they won it. They went crazy. Everyone went crazy. They are a great story. So congratulations to Leicester City. And that will wrap up our episode. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next week.